Hey brother. Finding Dory has been out for a couple of weeks now and all of the Easter eggs are starting to float to the surface, and I'm sure we'll make a video about that at some point, but today I wanted to focus on the one that has been intriguing me the most, and it's actually one that we've known about for a while now. This picture of Darla in the quarantine office. How and why did this photo end up here? Well, I aim to find out. Unfortunately, we really don't know that much about Darla because really she doesn't get that much screen time. Mostly what we know is just that she's the niece of P. Sherman, the dentist. But that only makes the mystery of the photographs that much more interesting, especially when you consider that actually there's a third photograph in Toy Story 3 where Darla appears on, wait for it, the cover of a magazine. This girl is on the cover of a magazine. How? What explanation can there be that possibly ties all three of these things together? Well, I think the first clue is actually the content of the picture we see in the dentist office and at the quarantine office. Darla holding a bag with a dead fish in it. It has always seemed odd to me that anyone would frame this particular picture. Like, hey, you know what I want to be reminded of every single day? That time I got my niece a fish, and she killed it. Odd, right? And yet, it appears in two locations. And since the dentist is the only character we absolutely know owns a copy of the photo, you could guess that after the events of Finding Nemo, when all of his fish escaped, and probably he assumes they all died, he falls into a state of depression, abandons his dentist practice, and moves to America to instead save as many fish as he can at the Marine Life Institute. But I kinda doubt it. Personally, I don't think P. Sherman switched jobs. I mean, this guy loves being a dentist. The other picture he has in his office is of himself accepting a golden tooth trophy. His boat is called the Aussie Flosser, and one of his patients is apparently the Prime Minister of Australia.
Well, good thing I pulled the right one. Hey, Prime Minister.
So yeah, this is a guy who's obviously incredibly good and dedicated to his craft. I actually think it's much more likely that a different member of Darla's family, like say her parents, work at the Marine Life Institute. Remember, she's just P. Sherman's niece. We have no idea what her parents do, so it's possible they live in America. And if her parents, or at least one of them, works at a fish hospital, it would kind of explain why they would frame this particular picture that probably not many people would. Because if you're the dentist who appears to be a little bit arrogant, remember one of the other pictures in his office is of himself accepting an award. If his brother or sister works at a place where they save fish for a living and that's the reason you get their daughter a fish and then she immediately kills it, that's kind of hilarious. I can totally see that becoming like a big family joke. I guess saving fish doesn't run in the family, eh? It also kind of explains why Darla is so excited to be getting a fish, because it's what her parents do, or at least one of them. And I mean, kids look up to their parents. So great, Darla lives in America and is visiting her uncle on a trip to Australia when we see her in Finding Nemo. Mystery solved, right? Ah, but what about her braces, I hear you saying? Because yeah, P. Sherman is obviously her dentist, and I doubt she's crossing the ocean every time she needs a checkup. True, but there is a difference between dentist and orthodontist. The orthodontist is the person who adjusts your braces every time, but even when you have braces, you still go to a regular dentist for like cleanings and stuff. And since Darla is a family member, I'm betting she gets a free dentist visit. So yeah, why not get a free teeth cleaning while you're visiting Australia and spend some time with your uncle while you're at it? But what about the gift itself? How is she gonna get the fish back to America? I mean, they don't let you take that kind of stuff on planes, and even if she could, it's not gonna live that long in a bag. Post-credit scene of Finding Dory notwithstanding. Okay, I admit, the fish is a problem, but not a deal breaker. This theory can still work because Darla's parents could just be divorced. One of them living in Australia and one of them living in America working at the Marine Life Institute. In fact, that offers an even better explanation for why Darla is so excited to be getting a fish, because the parent she doesn't get to see very often works with fish. And that all sounds great, but there's still one more issue. Why is she on the cover of the magazine? Ugh, it just makes no sense. I mean, what notoriety does she have? And if Toy Story 3 takes place in 2007 and Finding Nemo takes place in 2003, why is it such a young picture of her? Why hasn't she aged? She should be a lot older by then. This has been bothering me for years. And then, I kid you not, this morning, the answer came to me in the shower. And it has been staring us in the face for years. So simple. Just look at the words on her shirt. Rock and roll girl. That's right, Darla is a singing sensation. We even get to hear her sing a song.
Oh no.
Okay, yes, that was horrible. So maybe Darla is not a singing sensation, but I bet one of her parents is. That's why she's wearing that sweatshirt. That's why she's on the cover of a magazine. She's the daughter of a rock star. That would even support her parents being divorced, because like celebrity marriages almost never last. And it could explain why the prime minister is visiting what appears to be a small family dental practice, because it's a recommendation from his rock star friend. But that still doesn't explain why Darla is so young on the cover of the magazine. That is because Finding Nemo does not take place in 2003 like we thought. I've always just assumed it was 2003 because that's the year the movie came out, and the dentist buys a filter for the aquarium called the Aquascum 2003. Seemed pretty solid, but today I noticed something new. The calendar in the dentist's office. You'll notice it's November and that Darla happens to be visiting on her birthday. Sounds like an awful way to spend your birthday if you ask me, but hey, some people like the dentist. But more importantly, you'll notice that the first day of the month was on a Sunday, and in 2003, the first day in November was on a Saturday. But presumably it's still happening somewhere in the late 90s or early 2000s. So I did some checking, and the only times November starts on a Sunday is in 1998 or in 2009. At first, 1998 seems like the obvious choice because that's the year Finding Nemo actually went into production. But then the picture of Darla on the magazine in Toy Story 3 in 2007 would be a lot older. And yet in the picture, we can still see she's clearly a little girl. But if Finding Nemo takes place in 2009, then the picture we see of Darla on the magazine is actually a younger picture of her than we see her in Finding Nemo. And that's why I think that one makes the most sense, because I don't think she would look that different from 2007 to 2009. And if you're now suddenly thinking that this disproves my theory from last week about how Finding Dory fits into the greater Pixar theory because now Finding Dory would take place after Ratatouille, you'd be wrong. Because one, I don't think the amount of pollution would change that much, and two, Ratatouille could actually take place in 2010 depending on how you interpret a tiny little bit of handwriting in the movie. So no, nothing changes. If you haven't seen how I think Finding Dory fits into the Pixar theory, you should click the card to go see that. And speaking of things you should check out, Ben and I were on the Now Conspiring podcast earlier this week with none other than Pixar author John Negroni. Interestingly, his version of how Finding Dory fits into the Pixar theory was like the complete opposite of mine, so we had some fun, friendly debate about that I think you guys would really enjoy. I will include a link to that down in the description. But what do you guys think? Do you agree? Is one of Darla's parents a rock star? Let me know your thoughts in the towel section down below.
These socks are amazing!
Guys, thanks for watching. As always, please like this video if you haven't already, and subscribe so you don't miss any future Pixar theory videos. If you want to see how I think Finding Dory fits into the Pixar theory, you can click right here. Or if you want to find out the truth about Finding Nemo, you can click right here. But Ben, that's all I've got for you today, man. I will see you in another life, brother.